Hello, everyone. Welcome to our bookkeeping webinar. As we're waiting to join everyone, please drop in the chat where you're joining from. We would love to see our international attendees all over the world. Natalia, how can I see the chat here? Or I can't see it as a host. Okay, here it is. See it.
Yes, you can.
And then Savannah. Nice. Las Vegas met, of course. Just drop it in the chat. There we go. For those who don't know it, I think you don't know it at all because we haven't announced it yet, but we're doing this year a roadshow with TaxDome. So very big news. We will be in 5 different cities in North America, obviously in Europe and so on too. But the roadshow will be specific for North America. So we're really looking forward to see a lot of you at the roadshow. It's going to be, I think, in Chicago, Miami, San Diego. Where else, Natalia? Where will we be?
Yeah, so Houston, Miami,
Okay.
Houston, San Diego,
Toronto.
Toronto.
Right?
Yeah, that's the 5th
There we
country.
go.
Yeah.
So super excited. It's going to be our first roadshow because we got to prepare ourselves for our first customer conference. It's going to be interesting. Very good. For the UK people, I'm flying tomorrow to no, on Sunday I'm flying to London. So if you're joining the digital accountancy show, I'll be there. If you want to meet me in person, I'm up for Guinness or 2.
And it's going to be lovely and sunny. So you've picked a good time to come to Britain.
Well, I hope I bring the good weather with me.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, I think we can kick it off, Natalia. What do you think?
Yep.
Let's kick it off. Okay, good. So, hi everyone again. My name is Peter. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at TaxDome. It's my 5th year, or more than 5 years now with TaxDome. I joined from the early days. We have grown meanwhile a lot. We have more than 10,000 accounting professionals at TaxDome. And today I have a wonderful panel with me where we'll be going through some bookkeeping trends and to make sure that we have some good metrics and understanding how to run a successful firm. And to introduce the panel, before we introduce the panel, I want to talk today about the goals. So one goal is that we want to learn about how to strengthen our client relationships. The second is to discover how tech and processes help you scale. And in the end, we will hear some real stories from successful bookkeepers and firm leaders, which is our panel. And I'm going to let them self-introduce. So Rob, want to kick us off?
Yeah, how you guys doing? I'm Rob Aquino. I'm the CEO of JBS. We're a family-owned and operated firm just north of Boston, Mass. And I'm very excited to be here. I've been with TaxDome now going on about 3.5 years. Very happy with the product.
I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm over in the UK. I work with Joe Wood. I'm an accountant by training. I've run a bookkeeping practice, and these days we support a community of about 26,000 bookkeepers around the world. We host the Bookkeepers podcast, so we're excited to talk about what we're hearing from our bookkeeping community about best practice with communication.
I'm Matt Bontrager. I'm the managing partner at TrueBooks out of Las Vegas. We got employees throughout the country, North America. We focus on tax and bookkeeping, and I'm excited to be here. TaxDome has been a huge part of our success over the last couple of years in growth, so I'm excited to rave about it.
I'm Jo Wood. We partners with Zoe, based in the UK. We bumped into TaxDome when we were at Accountex in Canada, and it's going to be really nice to see Peter next week at the Digital Accountancy Show yeah, like Zoe says, we support lots of bookkeepers. I actually have been a bookkeeper for 20 years, and I finally figured out the formula of building and scaling a practice from home around my 3 kids. And I did that over 3 years and sold it for multi-six figures in August 23. And now with Zoe, we help other people how to build flexible businesses that work for them.
Wow, amazing. I'm just so proud to have such a strong panel today. It's beautiful to see, over the years, I don't know with how many accounting professionals I've talked to, thousands over thousands, and it's just so impressive, how big the market is, but also how professional and I would say the skill set has improved, if you think as a normal bookkeeper, back in the days, and now what the bookkeeper needs to do and how they need to perform has changed over the last 5 years, I think, tremendously. And I'm just so happy to have you on the panel today. I want to jump into the first topic today, and it is about relationships. And I want to talk about what bookkeepers want. And bookkeepers want to showcase value and be indispensable for their clients. And since Joe and Zoe, since you run a huge community, over 2,000 bookkeepers, super impressive, by the way. Tell us a little bit about what's one underrated habit that helps them build strong and lasting client relationships?
Well, the first thing that pops up when I see that is that they want to show value, but they really they struggle with showing that value, and therefore they undercharge for their services. So therefore people think if you're cheap that you're not that valuable, and then they can't actually provide the service that they need to provide because they don't have the resource to do so, and therefore they're not indispensable for their clients. So Zoe and I really do think that pricing model and getting that right at the beginning and having the confidence, and really Zoe and I teach lots of things about sales and marketing and branding and pricing, but it's all really confidence. Because if you don't show your confidence first, and there's not that exchange of value, it needs to be a value exchange. And they're so lovely. I honestly believe that this sector of people, they are so helpful, but they feel bad about charging more. And then they end up working so many hours because they're trying to please their clients all the time. So they do really want to be indispensable, and they do want to be really valuable, but they do need to realize that they need to charge for that.
And I think, Joe, as well, it's much simpler. Like, I think we're trying to overcomplicate it when we're talking about things like value and being indispensable to your clients, because bookkeepers are so in touch with the day-to-day numbers. You are looking at the numbers all the time. You're not waiting for tax season to finally do a review. You're actually there day to day. And we always like to think of it might be different culturally, and I'm really interested to hear other panels' views here, but in the UK, the bookkeeper is the person who is doing the day-to-day transaction processing. They're the person who is seeing the paperwork, speaking to the client, asking for information. They're the person that the client is calling or emailing when they've got a question about something in their accounts. Whereas the accountant traditionally there is definitely more of a crossover now, but you would find that the accountant traditionally sort of stepped in at the end of the quarter or the end of the year. So I think bookkeepers are naturally indispensable and valuable in terms of them being available day to day and understanding what's actually happening in the business. And that has value, and that in terms of pricing, that has value. So I don't think we need to make it more complicated. We just need to say to bookkeepers, you're the people who really understand the finances, and it's that relationship that we really are pricing.
Matt, what is your perspective on this? How do you create a strong relationship?
The biggest thing that I think is the most underrated piece, I don't think accountants like talking to people. So that's why I also think like we got a really good panel here, because I think we're a bunch of yapper. I think we can talk for a while. And I think that whether you have that quality or not, I think if you truly are chasing low churn and you want long lasting clients, which let's be honest, that's the reason that I think I got into this business. I hate sales. I don't want to have to sell someone new every time I show up to work. I like the thought of if you wanted to throttle off for a month, you have a book of business from all this work that you just did. And I think to nurture that book of business and make them happy and see the value, I think you need to pick up the phone and get in front of these clients, because especially in a digital age, I mean, like you said, these newer client avatars that people are going to be selling to and working with are younger. So they want to use tech. They want things to be more seamless, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to see you and and you be there for them in their corner. So for me, by far, what I scream from the mountaintops is pick up the phone and call your clients. Like maybe instead of sending that email for the update, call them for 5 minutes. And I get it. That 5-minute phone call is probably going to go 19 minutes and that's going to annoy you, but that's fine. But then when they pay the invoice the next month on the 1st and that card goes through, you're going to understand that, hey, these are the small things that build towards a long lasting relationship. So for me, by far, is speaking to your clients and picking up the phone, to talk to them, or go to them if you are in the same area. That would be for me the biggest.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned, like speaking to the clients, having this proactive communication. I mean, Rob, I have here 2 stats. I pulled out from our report, from our industry report. 84% of clients want real-time updates, and 73 of them want to understand why you do things. How do you provide this kind of information?
That's a great question. And to piggyback a little bit on what the others were saying, I think part of the challenge is we're selling something to people who don't understand what we're selling. Accounting is a language, and if you don't speak it, it's very difficult to understand it. So, I have a sales and asset management background, so I can sell this stuff. And what we've done is we've taken a lot more time up front on the scoping work to explain what the work is and what it looks like. And, since we've done that properly, when I took over as CEO in 2023, our pricing has increased about 50%. And we're there. People are still saying yes to the product because they understand that we're in here operating kind of like as a non-equity partner is the language I like to use, right? Is who else is looking after your financials that doesn't have a vested interest? And so I think a lot of this is a little bit of sales training. But yes, I primarily focus on our CFO clients. So these are people I'm meeting with weekly or biweekly. And we're looking at the numbers like on a daily basis. So I could attest to the fact that clients want real-time data and they want to understand why you're making these recommendations. And when you have the data behind you, it's very easy to prove.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just recently joined a podcast, and the question was like, how would I showcase value of my service? And I said, well, I would just treat my service like a product and just list everything I offer. Like when you go, for example, to Best Buy and buy a camera, you see how many megapixel, what's the resolution, all those things. Just write everything down what you're going to offer, and then it increases obviously the value, and it makes it much better to understand for your clients. We have one poll coming up. So Natalia, can you please launch the poll before we move on the next slide? I give you here 15 seconds just to answer. What is your biggest challenge in client communication? So we have the answers like clients take too long to respond, too many scattered messages, and clients don't follow instructions, and incomplete or incorrect info. Let's see. So as of now, pretty equal, huh? Pretty equal. The most answered is clients take too long to respond. We can cover this afterwards once we talk about automations, and then we can talk about reminders, how you can have them faster respond. Very good. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Let's end it, Natalia, please. You can share the results. So just that you can see it. Perfect. Thank you. So let's move to the next topic, which is client experience. So client experience is becoming now a big thing. And Matt already mentioned it a little bit because we talked about it before we kicked off the webinar, is that you're not dealing anymore with this old school client where you think you're gonna work on spreadsheets or on a Word document or whatever, like in person. Like now you're competing not anymore against other bookkeepers. You're competing against Uber, Amazon, their bank apps, because your future client is a 27-year-old freelancer, which runs his whole business or her whole business on their phone. So they are using everyday Uber, Amazon, their banking app, call all those apps. So you want to be aligned with this kind of experience. So bookkeepers want to grow their client base without sacrificing on client experience. So Matt, tell me about you. So you have scaled TrueBooks quickly. How did you balance growth with keeping your clients happy and well supported along the way?
So I go back to that communication piece again, because just I think it's something that lacks really bad in accounting, which again, by one nature, accountants don't like to talk to people typically, but let's be honest, to find and to build a scalable team, you need them to talk to the clients. So I think for me, it comes back to really finding a way that the clients like to communicate. Like I had saw a good comment here. I mentioned the phone call, but then Dave came in and mentioned something like, hey, maybe a phone call that's a way or a means of communication that client wouldn't prefer because it does interrupt them in the middle of the day. So I think finding out how each client likes to communicate and making sure that they don't fall into a black hole. When I think about any client coming to me, I always ask them, what did the last person do that made you mad? Because I want to know exactly what it was so that I don't do the same thing. And it's always a mixture of one of the two things. I never heard back from them. Or I would get shuffled around from professional to professional. So if you think about that, the way to bridge that is, well, okay, pick up the phone when they call you, or send the text back or send the email back within a reasonable amount of time when they're communicating to you. And if you are going to have multiple staff at a firm, because we are trying to scale, talk to them. Admins are going to play their role. Bookkeepers are going to play their role. Managers are going to play their role. Make sure that you don't come in asking the same thing twice, asking for a document that you already have. That is the worst. That I wish I could eradicate that, but that happens. And so I think for me, we have seen very fast growth. And I think that was just because some of the circles that we were in, we were able to find clients quickly. But literally our motto has been, hey, get the business, keep the business. And in order to keep the business, I need to figure out how it is that you want to communicate as a client. I want the clients where you don't want to talk to me except for once a month when I send you your financials by the 5th of the following month. That's great. But I'm going to have that client, Jan, who Jan wants to talk once a week when the books are reconciled and see where profitability is, and that's fine. And so figuring out how clients like to communicate for me is the biggest, because we all know how to be good at our work and be good accountants. But at the end of the day, the client is not the accountant. And so how they want to receive that information for me has been the biggest, because if I can, sometimes I don't need you to see or perceive the value the right way. I need to keep you happy and communicate with you on the terms in which you like as the business owner, and let me do my job. I'll let you do yours. And for me, that's worked really well. And I think that helps with churn, which for me is the biggest consideration. I don't want to lose clients, right? It's more work for us. So for me, it's all about communication style for sure.
Okay. Rob, around digital experience, how do you see it? Like providing a nice experience, for a digital product.
That's a great question. To Matt's point, we use different communication styles relative to the client. So there's some clients who want to talk to us annually. There's others who want to talk to us daily. And depending on the type of communication, we have internal Slack chats, or we use email, right? Depending on frequency. So I think it's about not only meeting clients where they are, but also setting proper boundaries and expectations relative to what clients are paying for. The biggest benefit I have found, everyone that I work with for the most part, unless they're solopreneurs, has at least hired one person. So I try to get the client to look at this as another hire. And when you consider it that way, it's a little bit easier to put some cash flow to it. And it's a little bit easier to set expectation.
That's great. I love that. So I really like this one chat here from Brandy. It was mentioned every industry has its own language. It's around niche. So we will be releasing this year, by the way, a huge niche industry report about how to approach niche industries and why it's more effective and so on. But Joe, Zoe, what do you think about niche industry and providing even a better experience?
I'm going to just prime Joe because I can't help thinking when you're talking about this, about your client with the laptop in the salon, and I feel like I'm reading your mind. So I'm going to have to
You are, because exactly, so what Matt said about, you don't want to make the same mistake. And I kept hearing over and over again from my clients that they didn't feel that they knew their bookkeeper or accountant. They never saw them, and then you saw them like when there was something like a tax bill to be delivered. But it's really hard to have that communication, that really personalized communication, if you've got loads of different types of clients, and that has to be really personalized. So I decided, as a smaller practice, to go down the route of niching, and I was in I had the salon and beauty industry, because they tended to be similar types of personalities, and I was able to meet them on a communication level of where they were at, which tended to be WhatsApp. So rather than those phone calls, I was able to do voice notes, so they still had that personalized touch, but they were able to pick it up in between appointments. They never had the laptop while they were doing people's nails or doing a facial for somebody. They rarely looked at email, and I realized that I had to meet them where they were at. The other thing that I did was that I found lots of my clients from a Facebook community, a niche. It was a salon marketing group, and I got so many referrals from there. So I'd found them on Facebook. So then I would communicate to them through Facebook, through my personal brand. So even if they weren't seeing me for a meeting, they felt that I was there. I was present. I was always there. And they knew what I was up to. They knew what my thoughts were about things. And yeah, they, of course I met with them monthly and they had voice notes, but it's like how that holistic to wrap around them so that they can never say those words to the next provider. I never saw her. I never knew, I didn't know what she was about or anything like that, because I was always in their face.
Amazing. It just aligns with everything what we're learning right now while creating this niche industry report. So just to provide also some data from our client industry report, how additionally you can provide a wonderful client experience is that the clients, 3 or 4 of the clients say they desire a single platform. Why? Because they don't need to log in everywhere and in 6 different tools. They know exactly, log into my client portal, know exactly what I have to do. And they actually prefer a bookkeeping firm who has a strong digital tool. So very important also to consider. So as a next topic, I want to talk about workflows, automations, processes. I know, for example, Rob has set up a lot, but just to set up the prompt, bookkeepers want repeatable, scalable workflows. Rob, when did you realize you needed more structure to grow? Like, and what's one workflow you put in place that made a real difference? Like, not more. Give me one of them.
So I knew right away, and I think that's what got me into the CEO seat from CFO. And I brought a couple ideas to the board, and very quickly it made sense that we had to automate and scale quickly while hopefully not adding bodies every month, because that's a challenging thing to do from a staffing perspective. So one we did on the sales side, because you guys all know that sales and onboarding is the hardest part. Once you have a client in for 6 months plus, you can manage pretty easily. So we built in, I think right now we have 4 different pipelines for the type of client that we're onboarding, whether it's going to be an annualized bookkeeping work, monthly, quarterly, or weekly. And I have a sales manager, I think with something like 20 different processes in these pipelines, managing the system, managing the client experience. So we know at all times, I can log in right now. I think we have something like 60 people onboarding, but I also know exactly where they are in the onboarding process. And thanks to that little clicker there, how long they've been in each step of the process. So micromanaging in a way from afar to say, why has this client been in documents received for 2 days? Sounds like we could be turning that workaround, has been crucial. And, we were at HubSpot before. I've used Salesforce before. Nothing's made it this smooth for us.
Awesome. Matt, 71% said it's important that they're asked to complete, that the tasks they are asked to complete are provided to them digitally. Can you confirm this?
Yeah, we have
Or do
seen
you
a good
disagree?
response. No, I would agree. I would say that my thoughts on how many people would accept it were definitely lower, but it's been surprising to see how many people are welcoming the digital checklist, the organizers and things like that. Because again, I think now the typical business owner, not only are they younger, but I will say even the older crew is, I think, ready to accept this. I had a guy that was almost 90 years old in my office the other day. In my head, I'm thinking, I'm not even going to mention the word TaxDome to him. We ended up sitting there together, logged him in, got him all set up, and it worked perfectly, and he was willing to accept it. So I find, because of the way that the tools are laid out and the software interface is so easy, really all ages are willing to accept it. And again, we know that it's the constant struggle of, hey, if you fill this out, it's going to really help me out as a firm. But we don't want that process to be so burdensome for the client to where we're sacrificing their experience for our productivity. And so that's where the software's done a really good job at being helpful for them and helpful for us, to where no one's giving. We're all benefiting from it. So it's been
Excellent. I mean, we mentioned, before we started the webinar, we talked about clients, when a lot of bookkeeping firms, they're afraid to launch kind of a innovative tool, because they say, some of my clients are older, they will not use it. What is your answer to this?
Oh, lies. They do. But this is where I would say, though, don't send them just a 1 minute, or video to watch how to do it. Maybe it's going to take you 10 to 15 minutes on a Zoom, 30 minutes on a Zoom. But then again, that ROI of that time invested there, now next year, you have an organizer coming to you digitally. You have them emailing you, right? Or uploading documents versus dropping them off in a manila folder in your office. So it's for me, worth the time invested up front to get them on the right process.
That's why you need to understand your client, though, right? Isn't it? So this is where the research you've done around your ideal client avatar is really helpful, because if you can put yourself in their shoes, then you can start to think about, like, if this is the process that I want, because I know this is going to be best for them, best for me. And you've proven, Matt, that your oldest clients can cope with the technology, and because they're using online banking, they're ordering stuff from Amazon as well. Like, I don't know why we think like it's just us youngsters using.
That's a good way to put it. If you order something from Amazon, you can use my portal. Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Right. So they are using other digital tools. So it's really insulting for us to assume that they're not going to. We just need to maybe think about, how do we train our clients in the process? Maybe if I was training one of my kids to use TaxDome, they would probably pick it up in the next 10 minutes. But maybe my mum would need me to sit down with her and show her. And that's just like personalizing the customer experience for her. But I can get the same results. It's just how I approach that training.
And most probably your mom is going to pay you more than your child, right?
I mean, I'll pay my kids.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's exactly how we see it too. Like, it's just you're not gonna send just an invitation to your portal and that's it. And then you're surprised that there is no adoption rate. As mentioned before, create a Loom video, guide them through, show them the values around it, like make them feel like that you're hands-on with them, and you can scale this. One Loom video for thousands of your clients, and it's done. And even if you do it a little bit more tailored, if you have, for example, specific niche, then mention this. Hey, for our beauty salon clients, this is how you do it, and they will already feel tailored. This message tailored to them.
I think it's not necessarily the digital tools that are the problem. It's our language that we said earlier that we use alongside a new tool can be overwhelming. And I learn new things all the time. It doesn't mean it, and it's going back to the communication and understanding, what is the point of this? Why am I doing this? Nobody wants, and this is where Gen Z are going to really take things to the new level, because they won't tolerate us being taking a really long time to do something if there's a tool to do it quicker. But they also really aren't going to do it if they don't understand why and the purpose. And our clients, and this is what we were talking about, the communication, we need to understand, why do you need to give, when people were saying that it's the time it takes for people to give me the documents, the clients, It's because they don't understand why it's important. It's going to the bottom. They haven't prioritized it. And that's because we have not expressed what the value will be if we get it in a timely manner and we can turn around and we can have these great conversations, because they've not experienced it before. So we have to really take them on this journey. And that's why onboarding is like the most important process. And how I did this was I did have a team, but I handheld. I didn't just drop them because I was investing, like we was talking about the churn. I wanted that long-term relationship. So I would invest my time through the sales process, but then through the onboarding process, and slowly I would offload and hand over with my team. So I'd be on an onboarding call with my client, but with the client manager that was going to be coming on, and making sure they felt that hand holding. Because, and yes, it takes a lot of your time and effort, but like Rob said, that is the most important time, and that time spent there is so well spent.
Yep. That's where the money's made. And we all know that's where the hard work is. I'm very clear and honest with my clients. I tell them this relationship doesn't work for me or my firm if we don't work together for a minimum of 3 years. And what I find from clients is, oh, wait, you're interested in being here for the long run. You're not just, you don't want this onboarding fee and see you later. And it makes all the difference. Some of my best clients, we've been working together for 5-10 years, even from former firms that I they've stayed with me. And on the tech adoption, I have one thing to say that I screamed in my team's ear while we were moving to TaxDome, because nobody likes tech. The reality is, for some reason, nobody likes to adopt new tech. And to me, tech adoption is an internal issue, not an external one. If your team is not using it, if they're complaining about it, your clients aren't going to use it. The moment that you suffocate those excuses internally, I find that there's no problem at all.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you mentioned already onboarding. Seems like you wrote the deck. So the next topic is onboarding. But before I jump to the next slide, Natalia, we have another poll. So can you please launch it? Exactly. So where do you lose the most time? Chasing approvals, managing deadlines, fixing client's data, or switching tools? Fixing client's data. Well, I don't know if you know our newest feature at TaxDome, but now you can sync your organizer data directly with our CRM. So if this is one of your problems to update the data of your clients, just send out a new organizer, get the data updated, and then sync it with the CRM. That's in seconds done. There we go. So 61% fixing clients' data. I'm gonna end the poll, Natalia, and share the results with you so you can see it for a bit. Managing deadlines. Let's talk a little bit about this. I think that's actually important, managing deadlines. Matt, how do you manage deadlines?
What first comes to my brain is not only a clear checklist or like a clear process, but to be honest, is just hounding the clients to make sure that we get what we need. Like I will tell a client up front in onboarding that, hey, similar to what Rob said, one, this isn't going to work if we're going to, let's say work together for anything less than 12 months, ideally that 3-year mark. But is if you don't respond to us, which we know is something that happens in accounting, the only thing we can do is progressively get more stern with our communication and also our means of communication. So I might send you a message, then maybe an email, then maybe a text, but then I'm going to call you and try to get in front of you to get the information that we need, which I find to be one of the hardest parts of bookkeeping still, is just getting information timely. And what we've really found is just to kind of run through that brick wall and keep asking for it, like aggressively at that point, just because we express to them, hey, this is not going to work for you or me if we can't get the information we need. Because let's be honest, what's going to happen? You're going to get an email 3 weeks later from the client saying, hey, I need this. Where is it? And your response is going to be, I don't have it. They're going to get mad. But in reality, the real answer as to why you don't have it is because they didn't give you the stuff that you needed timely. So again, back to, I think it was Joe that was saying, is like, hey, setting the expectation to say, hey, this is the why. This is why I need this information so that you understand what the win and what the success looks like down the road. So aggressive communication and checklists, honestly, is really just staying on it.
And I think, important also to mention is that as you set expectations, set your different tier pricing, set your different packages. If you want to have within the day a response, well, then you gotta pay for the pro plan or for the premium plan, what you're offering. And if you feel like, you're more like your clients are more like hands off and they let you do, then also tailor your a package around those clients. But if you have clients who want to be nonstop educated and communicated with, then offer them a more expensive plan if it takes you more time. So that's absolutely okay. Awesome.
And a reminder on those plans that nobody knows better than you whether they can afford it or not.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So let's move to the next topic. Is around onboarding. And Joe mentioned already onboarding. It creates this trust, and bookkeepers want an onboarding process that sets expectations. We talked about this, saves time, very important, and makes them look professional from day one. Rob, how do you do this?
So for me, we're very good at managing intake and gathering some clear information quickly. How long you've been in business, what's top line revenue. From there, we have a lot of, we have 4 key products that we put clients in, and they're kind of internal to us, but we're starting to communicate to the clients now. The easiest way for you guys to understand them is, some clients need a bookkeeper, some need a staff accountant, some need a controller, some need a CFO. And those are kind of the 4 categories that we see. But the more you can get up front, the better. I learned early in my career that the sale is made in the fact finder. That first 1.5 hour session is where you're going to determine whether someone's going to buy something from you and what their capacity is to purchase, how much they're going to spend. So it's key for us to make sure that we have the right person in front of them. I don't want my manager who sells bookkeeping products sitting down with a potential CFO client. I should be there. And for us to know this up front prior to that first meeting is crucial.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I couldn't agree more. Zoe, please.
I feel like our clients just need guidance. Like they need us sometimes to just take the lead, and the onboarding is a really good opportunity to do that, isn't it? You were talking I've got questions about onboarding fees. I don't know if other people watching have. I'd love to ask about that, but I was just thinking about, you were talking about the clients who need more contact time with you, the clients who need more support, and actually charging them a different fee scale than the clients who need less support. Like, we have to be really aware of this when building our businesses, because one of the biggest challenges, particularly if you're a new practice owner or a bookkeeper, or like a lot of Joe and my community working at home around families, and see it as a sort of side hustle or a part-time role, which it definitely does not need to just be. We really keep ourselves small when we don't need to. The challenge is when we haven't got lots of work on, we try and over deliver to the clients who aren't actually paying us for that level of service, and then we set really unrealistic standards for ourselves, and clients' expectations grow because they're like, whoa, I'm getting such amazing value for this tiny fee I'm paying, when actually what we should be doing with that time instead is just delivering the service that we've promised, and then going out and finding more clients and doing all the selling that everyone hates to do. But we can build a business around having a really high touch, value led service, or we can build a practice around a low touch service but at a low fee, but we have to make sure that we stick with that low touch service. And this is where understanding the process and understanding the type of client and how much hand holding they need and what technology is going to work, or automate or not automate, or what dashboard, someone was saying about the lady who wants them to call at the end of the week when everything's reconciled. That lady is going to need a different type of reporting than someone else who might just be able to log into some software and see something on a dashboard. So we've really got to know the client, know the service that we're offering, and then price it properly and make the onboarding process part of that. Because then you've got your client on side all the time. So exactly as it says on the slide, the trust starts from day one. The trust happens when you deliver the thing that the client actually needs, and you take them on the journey to deliver the thing they're expecting that they're buying.
It's so true. I just wanted to bring up something about onboarding, which is something we speak about in our community a lot, and I just wondered whether Matt and Rob do this in their businesses. I have noticed when you're working with small business owners that even if they are great at providing you with everything, I used to call my onboarding behind the scenes my client training program. So I was training them to be an amazing client. And when life happens, because it does happen, and something happens to them, and that amazing client that used to give you everything when you ask for it, it just stops. Maybe there's a family emergency, bereavement or something. I gave my team permission to take them back to the onboarding stage again. And I found that was, I don't know why I felt like I needed permission and I needed to give my team permission, because I don't know if, I used to say this really awful thing back in the early 2000s, like if I didn't have a team and I didn't have clients, life would be really easy. And then I realized I was the problem. And then actually to give my client and say, do you know what, this is why communication and understanding what our clients are going through, rather than if you just hear like one of your team saying, oh my goodness, they're just a pain in the bottom and they're not doing this. Actually, because I was friends with them on socials, because I had that connection with them and they did, and we had WhatsApp groups with them, we knew life was happening. We were able to say, we're just going to hold off for a while. We'll give you some time. We'll book in some time when it's good for you. And we literally take them back to the beginning again. And that honestly helped the retention of clients at some really bad times in their lives, to be able to know that we had their backs.
Couldn't agree more.
That's a good point, Joe. We're very clear with clients up front that we move at their speed. We don't often find clients abuse that in the sense that they move too fast. So the problem is really that they're moving too slow. And when they slow down, we slow down. But the reality is what I found most helpful with our clients is convincing them, depending on their size, that they need to have an office admin to some capacity. That if they're the person doing the thing, whether it's cooking or painting, that they need to have someone that can stay on top of the paperwork. And that having a combination of an outsourced bookkeeper, accountant, and an office admin that doesn't require a lot of training is so much more effective on both cost and productivity than trying to hire a finance person in-house. And then when we have that person, our best clients have that person sitting in the seat, and they're usually always there, if not the owners, to back up.
I want to support also everything what we mentioned, before. We have this also in the client industry report that 71% of clients want a clear onboarding experience, and especially upfront, 61% appreciate being asked for info upfront via intake forms. So they want to have this. So don't be scared to send those things to them. They really want to feel like prepared, and they feel like this person is going to knows everything about me, and I provide them as more information is better. So this is exactly what your clients want to have. I'm gonna skip now the next slide about what tools bookkeepers want. I think this is quite clear because of time reasons, and I want to jump to the panel question. And this is, I expect now all of you to answer this. We can start with Zoe. So if you were starting your firm today, what would you do differently to strengthen client relationships and scale faster?
Yeah, okay. So in the UK, we have something called MTD coming up, Making Tax Digital, which means quarterly reporting for like the smallest businesses. I've said for years, because this has been delayed a few times, but I feel like there is a real opportunity to build a business around one specific type of output. And I think that MTD reporting is one of those things in the UK. So I would systemize the hell out of it. I'd have robots. I would be like, how do we automate this? It's exactly like mapping out the process, putting the automations in, and then just making sure that the communication is at the standard that the pricing allows. So I think that you can strengthen your relationships when you've got a really clear process, and then you're able to scale faster. That would be my approach.
And I just want to piggyback on this. So you're saying you want to automate everything, but it is connected with a learning curve. It is connected with setup work that you need to put hours and days and maybe weeks into this. but
Yeah.
you still would say it pays off so much in the long run.
Yeah, because you do your research, right? Like this is obviously a completely hypothetical example, but you know, if you and when Joe and I are working with bookkeepers, we'll often talk about a gold standard service, because the other end of the scale is you do the best service. And I don't know if it was Matt or Rob, you were talking earlier about like you go, oh no, Peter, it was you. You were talking about like you go and buy a product, a camera or something. It lists all the features. Actually, what we need to do is understand what all the benefits are of all of those features. So if we can work out like what the whole workflow is, whether it's for a low priced automated service or whether it's for a high value, high touch service, we do the research, we get the feedback from the kind of clients that we would be working with, and then we build in the right touch points, depending it's whether it's your 90-year-old client or your 27-year-old client. Like, what does that look like? What are the systems? And I do believe that if you have that insight into people and what people really want and the feedback, and of course you keep improving and getting feedback, then you can build something that is very, very scalable, but also keeps people very, very happy.
I don't mind answering next. Kind of thinking about this now as we're re-strategizing into a different direction. You know, I like planting a lot of seeds. Small businesses, I imagine most of you guys are servicing small businesses, and you guys are small businesses. And the reality of small businesses, most of them fail, right? 80% don't make it to year 5. There's a reason when you're small, it's hard to scale, it's hard to operate. You know, if I'm thinking about you're a solopreneur, but eventually you want to hire 5 bookkeepers, the challenge I see is you're going to service your clients now, they're going to love that, but then you're going to try to hand them off to bookkeepers. So there's a reason that small businesses struggle to grow. That said, if I were starting over, I would plant a lot of seeds with a very cost-effective, low-touch solution. I would then use the financial data that I have to analyze which businesses are doing best, and I would offer those more of my time.
That's a great point.
Love that. I think if I was starting over again, firstly, it might end up in divorce, because I've promised my husband I will never have another bookkeeping practice again, as I've had 5 over the years. And that's why I love to share my learnings, because there's been many a bumpy ride. But this whole thing about scaling, Rob, you said earlier, you are now stepped in as the CEO, and you said something that has been really like making me think lots recently about how do we grow but without taking on more staff, and that is true scaling. So, and I would keep asking myself the question, what does scaling look like compared to growing? And it feels easier, it feels lighter, and that does mean automation. It does mean using great tools and tech, and making sure that from day one I was the true CEO in my business, and I did not touch the operations from day one. Now, when I started my last firm, I did on day one take on a bookkeeper, but that was part-time. Really, I would, and I was still touching the bookkeeping. I would spend a lot more time in the weeds at the beginning, setting up the tech and the processes and systems like TaxDome, and making sure that people come in. And I would focus mainly on the culture of the business and my personal brand and the brand of the business, and getting our message out there. And that communication piece would be my 24-hour job.
Okay.
I'm reading the comments. These comments are good. Okay, I'm going to jump straight on Zoe's back with this one. And I literally, as you guys were talking about this, wrote this down. Think through the flow of work, test it over and over and over again. So just as Peter said, it might take weeks to get something down, but for me, relax, jump into the client's shoes and really think about it from their perspective, so that when you're walking through it, it's always nice to catch something that you're like, man, if I was a client, this would kind of annoy me too, because then it's like you've really reconciled with yourself. Hey, prior, Matt, that wasn't really a good idea, but now at least I've caught it because I've looked at it from their perspective. And again, that may not take 4 hours of sitting at a desk. That may take 3 weeks of sitting at a desk over and over and really testing it. And then and don't be scared to pick up the phone. Because again, just for me in this accounting world, we need to talk to our clients to keep them happy. And we know this, that, hey, instead of a 6-week email chain, maybe a 15-minute phone call can nip what it is in the bud right away. And then the last thing is, I love the comment that just came in. I was just reading it, and I think it's from Tiffany or Katie, just mentioning that, hey, they were a solopreneur, not really thinking that maybe systems would help them, that maybe that's more for scaling and people looking to scale. But if you ask me, that's exactly who this is built for, because if I'm trying to scale, systems are going to help me scale to get more people in place to grow. But if I'm a solopreneur, all I view scaling as helping me as is really replicating myself so that I now get more of my free time back while still running a firm that's profitable. So, I mean, yeah, those are my 2 cents of, if I was to start from scratch, I would have taken way more time just developing something from the beginning versus really just jumping off and then building it as you fly.
Your tips make me even start now my own bookkeeping business. I love it. I love it. All right, so we have our last poll. Natalia, wanna launch it before we go to the Q&A? The last one is, if you could free up 5 plus hours a week, what would you spend that time on? This one I'm really, really curious about.
See, these solopreneurs actually taking a break. You ask somebody like me, number 1, growing my client base. 1 and 2. 1, 2. And actually, I feel like this is either 4 or 1, 2, and 3. Is how that is. Yeah.
Improving processes. I mean, improving processes, why I know already it's gonna win, is because you didn't do it in the beginning. Like Zoe said, you gotta do this in the beginning. Then you get the ROI in the end of the day. I mean, on the other side, I think you guys can agree with me, is you have to revisit your processes. Everything you have set up every quarter, for example, even I at TaxDome, when I work with my team, I look at the process, what they've done once a quarter and see what do we need to adapt, what details do we need to change.
That job is never finished. That is the job of the CEO, to keep revisiting continuously and always finding those little 1% improvements along the way.
I agree. So I'm
I
ending
like
the
what
poll.
you just, sorry. I like what you just said though, Joe, because now I can rephrase that from when people thinking that I'm changing my mind. I'm just improving. That's the word. Yeah, I like that. That's good. I'm stealing that.
Not stop. So we see improving processes. So that's good. It's very good. So let's move on to the last slide. And before we start with the Q&A, I just want to share a little bit about TaxDome. We are trusted by over 35,000 professionals with more than 3 million of their clients. We're very fast growing. We're very happy, with the trust our customers are giving us. We have become in 2025 place 86 of the fastest growing SaaS tools in the world. So from 212,000 SaaS tools out there, TaxDome is number 86. We are on the board with tools like Monday.com, Trello, all those tools. You name it, we are under the top 100 of them, and it just fills me with proud to be part of such an amazing team. And on top of everything, we're one of the top 50 financial service products also around the world. This means a lot. Also, our customer service team achieved something amazing this over the last year. Is they won the Stevie Award, which is an award for the best customer support service in SaaS industry. So we also won the Silver Award for this. I appreciate the team so much. If you're a customer and you haven't joined our community, please join our community. Thousands of professionals out there. You can ask all your questions, what you ask today, you can ask there. Our team is there. You can ask how to use TaxDome or any other information you want to have. Follow us on LinkedIn. Our panelists, please drop your LinkedIn into the chat so people can find you, reach out if they have follow-up questions. They would love to connect with you. You're such amazing professionals. And as you're dropping in your LinkedIn, I'm going to start with the Q&A. So please feel free also to go on mic or raise your hand if you want to talk with us on the call. Otherwise, just drop it in the chat and we will start addressing your questions. So what first question do we have? What industries have you found to be great bookkeeping clients? Construction, food, restaurant, beauty, salon? That's one question. Who wants to answer this one?
My favorite is behavioral health. But you know, I think that the answer to that question depends on which industry you're most interested in.
Mhm.
I was going to say exactly the same. Like, you know, don't try and find something that you don't enjoy. I find myself today, I've been to the salon. Today, we have something in the UK where we directors of businesses get to have trivial benefits, and you can spend £300 in £50 allotments on like vouchers. I've spent all of mine at my favorite salon. It's where I like to hang out, and so I understand the business because I'm a customer and I enjoy it. So, like, what do you enjoy? We do lots of this ideal client avatar work, don't we, Zoe, with our community. And we talk them through what are they passionate about? What do they enjoy? And usually you'll find something along those lines because, like, newsflash, you don't have to hate your work. You can actually enjoy your life and your business.
And we started the whole conversation talking about value, didn't we? And you add value when you care about the industry, like maybe you have expertise or you've got a background or you're a specialist at a particular piece of software. You know, Joe working with salons would have been working with very specific salon booking systems. So, you know, just knowing a few of those inside out makes you suddenly an expert for that kind of business. So I had this sort of crossover. I like to think of it as a bit of a Venn diagram, like your interests, your expertise, your background. My husband's a creative, so I naturally had a network of lots of creatives. So it was very easy to go into the creative space and find agency clients who wanted to work with me. So just think about that, brainstorm all of your sort of your own background and expertise and see where it crosses over.
Very good. So there were some questions about our newest features coming up. I know you guys are staying so long to hear now my announcement. So first of all, you know, we're not releasing during tax season. Due to respect of everyone's busy work, we don't want to mess up your processes and tools, and there's nothing we want you to worry about. Just function. And our support team, you know, we have increased our support services also over the weekend. So if you need something, you can also reach out over the weekend. My email is always open. My LinkedIn is always open. Everyone around the company, even our founders, they would respond to you. So remember, we are a private bootstrap company, and we have grown so far because we stay authentic. We stay how we, you know, along our vision that we want to build the software which you and your clients love using. So around the features, yes, we are working on a bookkeeping hub. It started already to be in beta. So if you have already gotten an email to join this beta to for example categorize your transactions, this is coming. We are working very, very hard on it. We are working also on the intake and delivery feature. Yes, you don't need SafeSend or any other features. You can have intake and delivery within TaxDome. This is something, you know, we are working on. I cannot tell you when it is coming, but you know, we're working very, very much on it. Team chats, if you're in our beta, yes, team chats is already in our beta, and you don't need Slack or Teams or anything. You can just chat within Slack within, you know, for your chats. For the questions of uncategorized transactions, it will be first with QuickBooks Online, and someone asked around Xero. With Xero, we are working on a bigger partnership. It's a little bit more tricky. Why? Because I don't know if you know, but you know, they're doing something with their practice manager. I cannot announce it, but you know, ask them. And you know, this will be also coming around. So we're working on it very much. If you have any other questions around which features are coming up or what we are working on, please drop in the chat. Otherwise, I can mention also about TaxDome payments. Yes, we're working on TaxDome payments, our own payment system. You will be able to pass on fees and many other things like Venmo, PayPal, and other options, just to provide even a better experience where they just, you know, open their phone and they don't even know if they pay through Uber or through TaxDome. This is exactly the experience we want your clients to have. So around payments, this will be a big announcement very, very soon. So also there, if you have gotten an email for payments, this is you're one of the chosen ones. So there's another question. How do you guys feel about charging hourly versus providing monthly packages? Let's tackle this one as a last question.
I've moved away from all hourly work. It's such bad incentive. It incentivizes lying on timesheets. You have to spend time tracking time. It disincentivizes efficiencies. I type so much faster than everybody else I know. I shouldn't be dinged for it. So, we built a sophisticated pricing tool that takes a lot of data and just gives us a really strong estimate on how long we're going to spend. And then we go fixed fee. And I recommend, but clients don't like to buy variable expenses. Entrepreneurs don't like to buy variable expenses. So sell them something fixed.
And I think lots of people think, but they ask me what my hourly rate is. So I need to tell them that. They only ask you that because they think that's the question they need to ask. And then the next question they're going to ask is, how long is it going to take you? And you're going to say, I don't know. And actually, the truth of it is, it's going to get quicker and quicker every month for more value. And then therefore you're going to earn less and less, and then feel like, oh, you're going to hate the client and think they're useless, and it's all just bad. So I love that in the comments, everyone is just saying monthly, hourly rate's horrible. I love that. I feel like we're still banging the drum, and we still, in the UK, I mean, it's moving up, but Zoe and I were charging like £25 an hour back in like 2016. And some people are still thinking that is the fee now. There's been massive inflation. They're getting less and less and less money by charging that hourly rate. And even if they charge 32, 35, still rubbish. So yeah, we completely advocate for not charging an hourly rate and finding whatever other method it is. But absolutely, everybody, like with regards to Netflix and everything, how much is coming out every single month. That's what we want for this kind of service too.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Joe. Thank you, Joe, Rob, Zoe, Matt. It was amazing to have you. You provided so much value. I learned so much. I'm sure every attendant learned a lot. Thank you very much also for you participants for joining this webinar. We recorded this session. You will get an email with the recording. Also feel free to reach out through LinkedIn to Joe, Rob, Zoe, and Matt if you have any extra questions. And I appreciate you all. Happy finish of the tax season. And for all our international customers, I wish you a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much.